All right, guess we're live. This is... Thank you, game. This is Crisis Zone, or Time Crisis Crisis Zone as it was known on the PlayStation 2. I'm playing this on PCX2, which is a PS2 emulator. This came out in the arcades in 1999. Also, thank you again, Copyright Screams. You're doing really good for me today. I appreciate it. But this got ported to the PlayStation 2 in 2004. I have played Arcade Crisis Zone. It is one of my favorite light gun games out there. PS2 version, not as much, but I still think it's fun. They do make some changes to the game. It still really loads fun. You just get a machine gun and you're going into this technological center, this whole mall urban complex, and it's been raided by these terrorists, and you got to take them out. Anyone who's never played a Time Crisis game, because this is a Time Crisis spin-off, the Time Crisis games were innovative in that they used pedals, and you would step on the foot pedal to get out of cover and shoot enemies. If you release the pedal, you would duck, and you would avoid damage and reload, but you can't shoot while you're ducking. This game kind of has that, although you're using a shield. Without further ado, let's just jump into it. And my calibration hopefully should be good. So we're just gonna play story mode. The PlayStation 2 version has another scenario called Grass Market District, which actually takes place after Crisis Zone's story. It's 2 extra levels and they're pretty hard. I think I have a no-miss 1cc of that on my YouTube channel, like on Liturgy. That's really tricky. Anyway, let's start the first stage here. So you play as Claude McGarren, who's the member of the STF, which is this kind of anti-terrorist organization, riot squad, whatever, and we gotta take him out. Take care of these, the URDA, which is this militant evil organization that's taken over the mall. Anyone who's played Time Crisis knows that when an enemy is gonna shoot you, you'll see a red bullet coming your way. Crisis Zone's a bit different. And that you'll hear a beep and you'll see a target reticle on the enemy that's going to fire and you gotta duck. I was unaware of this. I don't even know if this is true still. I've never noticed it. But the game kind of has a ranked system where if you, depending on the order in which you play levels, like the early level you play is somewhat easy, and then it kind of gets a bit more difficult, like more enemies will shoot as the game continues. Maybe it's prevalent in the arcade, but I haven't played the arcade enough to really get that. The other thing I'll notice is that this game just has tons of destructive environments. Almost everything you see can be shot. It's just loads fun. This game has a combo system too, so the scoring is twofold. Get high combos, and clear stages quickly, because you do have a time limit. If you run out of time, you lose a life, just like Time Crisis. And if you if you clear an area of enemies, you get like a time extend. There's a few gotcha enemies in this game you have to pay attention to, which is common in many of these light gun games, but it's particularly egregious in Crisis Zone, I feel. And those enemies with like melee attacks, there's no like audible warning when they will do that, which is a bit annoying. But yeah, the destruction in this game is incredible. It's a lot better in the arcade with the sound design, in my opinion. But it's still decent here. Some guys have shields and you have to kind of break through them. The grenades are actually kind of hard to see when enemies throw them. It becomes kind of a problem in later levels. A bit rusty on my combo skills, but that's fine. But the Time Crisis games are pretty cool. They probably have some of the deepest scoring and most clean-cut scoring systems I've ever seen in any light gun game. I never knew that Time Crisis games were 1cc'able for a while. Up until I watched a YouTuber named SM Radis, who's just an incredible player. Not sure if he's watching, but just in the random case he is, I just want to say thanks for inspiring me to play these games. These games are incredible, and love watching you play. He's way better at these games than I am, honestly. He's incredible at Time Crisis. I was watching his run, his 1cc run of Time Crisis 2 at a different 1cc marathon that kind of made me realize that you actually can get better at Time Crisis, and I was just not playing as well as I was. And yeah, he's just such a treat. Kaz Gun Shooting is another fantastic light gun content creator that you definitely should check out. Also, equally amazing at Time Crisis. I love this part here. You got tons of like hats to shoot, and they got little cutesy animal hats you can shoot. And all right, this is the first boss, I think. Yeah. There's not a crazy amount of people who like stream or play these games or do videos on them, but for the people who do it, I appreciate it because it is a niche genre. I know light gun games are niche and that they're probably not going to make it today, but because a lot of the issues with these light gun games are just the controls. Just the lack of, you know, you have to get a gun peripheral for the game, and you gotta get some kind of sensor system, and a lot of these games use CRTs. This was, the PS2 version uses CRT for Crisis Zone. And, oh yeah, it's worth mentioning, so when you're shooting, there's two options for the game that they could have done. They could have had it so that the game, because you're holding down the trigger to shoot, they could have had it where the game is just flashing a mile a minute to register all these bullets on screen, and you would just get seizures up the ass. So they changed it. It actually has this sort of fog effect overlay that allows you to do that, but it's really annoying, and a lot of people complained about it for this game. You can patch it out of the PS2 version, the emulator, though, so that's why you don't see that kind of fog effect. But if you play this on actual PS2 hardware, you would have gotten that, and that's the patch is why you don't see that here. But it definitely makes the game a lot more bearable visually. Because again, we have the IR sensors for this gun, the gun for IR. Which is not the only light gun solution out there. There's others like the Sinden light gun you can look into. The only problem is that a lot of them are expensive. The gun for IR is probably the most expensive of all of them, but just do research, watch videos is kind of my suggestion if you are interested in getting hardware. That's a drop combo. Getting hardware for this game, or for any light gun game, just like these light gun solutions. I'm kind of tired, I'm sorry. You can get some combos on this boss. Pretty decent ones. Wait, action. There never was a sequel to this game, but a sort of spiritual successor in a way is Raising Storm, which I have and wanted to submit for this marathon, but I don't have the capture card yet for PS3, but if anyone knows any method of any good capture card equipment and any good sources of like tutorials on how to get that stuff captured in OBS, let me know, because I definitely would like to stream those games. I have the Time Crisis Crisis Zone pack, or Raising Storm pack, which has Time Crisis, Raising Storm, Time Crisis 4, and Dead Storm Pirates. Speaking of Dead Storm Pirates, that game is getting a sequel, and I'm very excited. I hope the game's good. It's being location tested right now. I'm always excited when a new light gun game gets announced. And Namco's made some really good ones. As long as it doesn't turn out how Time Crisis 5 did, I think we should be okay. Not a super big fan of Time Crisis 5. I don't hate it as much as others, but it's just, there's some weird problems with that game. That's a different story. So this is the second stage. And, a lot of stuff to shoot. The destruction in this game is just incredible. And also just, in the arcade, this just ran really good. This ran at a very consistent 60 FPS. And just, you're literally flowing from one environment to the other, shooting enemies. It feels so good, especially with the force feedback of the gun, which I don't have right now on my gun. But in the arcade, like, the actual gun had really good force feedback. Hate that part, but that's fine. Yeah, more enemies. Again, the knife guys, you kind of want to memorize, because they can be annoying. There's a barely visible grenade that was thrown there, but I got through it. Alright. Also, fortunately, there are no hostages in this game. It's just constant enemies. And the Time Crisis games largely don't have hostages, except the rescue mission in Time Crisis 3. And Raising Storm has hostages, too. Yes, and you better believe they do have life penalties for shooting them. But fortunately, Crisis Zone doesn't have it. It's just constant shooting. Just pick up the gun and just hold the trigger down, and it's just so much fun. The arcade version actually, I think, defaults at 3 lives, but the PS2 version defaults at 4. 4 lives. The Time Crisis series has had an inconsistent number of lives. Time Crisis 1 has 3 lives by default, and there are extra lives if you get enough shots without missing. Time Crisis 2 and 3 have 4, and then Time Crisis 4 and 5, at Raising Storm, start with 3. It's kind of weird. Most of the games had 3, basically. Alright. This kind of reaches the point of the game in which they start, like, throwing enemies and they're hidden behind objects and walls that you have to shoot down in order to actually get them. The shield guys, I kind of just start shooting them like crazy and just to get rid of them. I'll let these guys go. More knife enemies. So it's kind of hard because you want to get high combos, but you also want to clear the areas faster, so constantly you have to... There's the grenade you can barely see. I dodged it. There's another grenade guy. Yep. There was no warning for that, just the grenade flies, and it's sort of camouflage, especially with the color scheme of this game, which is definitely a lot more gray. The arcade is pretty colorful. So now we start getting helicopters, and they do have weak points, or not weak points, health bars. So a lot of bosses have health bars that helpfully appear, or a lot of enemies too, basically, that gauge how much life they have left, which is a helpful sort of visual indicator. The Time Crisis games wouldn't start getting that, I believe, until Time Crisis 3, which has tankier enemies. Alright, here's the second boss, just a helicopter. Music in this game kicks so much ass. This game is so cool. I have a sort of niche goal in mind ever since I started my new job. I would love to own these cabinets, and I've just been... It's really hard to find the cabinets these days because they're mostly in collectors' hands, and also just like repair work is a pain, but Crisis Zone, House of the Dead 1, and Time Crisis 2 definitely are my favorite CRT-like gun games, so definitely would like to have those big cabinet for them. It's fun playing these at home, and it's nice that with the convenience of the gun for IR or Sinden, you can do that, but definitely it's not the same as playing it on the arcade. And again, I miss the old days of arcades. It's changed a lot. Which makes me all the more appreciative for places like Galloping Ghost Arcade and other barcades that just have these cabinets, the older machines out. You know, these are the arcades I grew up with, the sort of late 1990s, mid-2000s games. And I just love them. Sorry if I'm ranting, there's not much else to say, just shoot the helicopter. This attack, actually, you gotta dodge. For some reason, it doesn't play the sounds when your shield gets collided with the helicopter. And it just bumps up your combo count if you, like, 20-some hits. It's kind of weird. And then the helicopter starts launching projectiles. They gotta shoot down. These attacks are, you cannot shoot all these projectiles down. You don't have enough time. You just gotta kind of dodge them. You can play a bit risky. Dodging these at the last second, it's kind of frame perfect, but if you do so, you actually can extend the combo. I'm not doing that, but I'm just telling you it is possible, so if you want to go for scores on this game, you can do it. And that's the boss. Boom. So there's the time bonus. So the zone bonus is like all the points you're getting from combos and shooting enemies. The time bonus is different per stage. And some stages have a higher time bonus than others. So we captured those two areas. Now we're in the third. Unlike Virtual Cop, it doesn't really matter the order in which you pick the levels. Again, there's the aforementioned supposed rank, which I haven't confirmed, that could be influenced by the level selection, but in terms of like story, picking the levels in different order than left to right that I'm doing here, it doesn't really, it does not affect the story or anything. It affects only one cutscene, but in a very minor way. It's actually kind of cool, and this game has a really nice attention to detail, especially the arcade. This is my favorite stage in the game. There's a lot of really fun rooms in this. You can just go ham and destroy. And we fight this guy. This guy's name is Tiger. And he's one of the main goons of the STF. Sent to stop you. He shows up in the attract mode, but I don't think when I started the stream it actually showed him. But he's kind of a major adversary you fight. And a lot of the stage are actually just sort of chasing him, really. And his partner, Edgy. The arcade version of this, I think I actually prefer this scene more in the arcade because if you shoot the windows, you'll actually hear wind blowing in, and you'll see actually like particles and other things blowing into the room. You'll see the curtain kind of rippling in the wind. A really cool detail, but they removed it from the PS2 version. Sometimes if you shoot enemies and they're about to shoot you and you stagger them, they actually you can interrupt their attack like that. Which is nice because by doing so, you could potentially not lose the combo if you can carry it on. And waste a bit less time. This is my favorite room in the whole game, just this giant ball. This nuclear, I guess it's some sort of nuclear science thing, but you just shoot the crap out of it. I like it a lot better in the arcade, but... yeah, the destructibility is just, in the sound design, is what I think makes this game so great. And it's also very balanced. The game, you'll see, is just giving me ample warning when enemies are going to fire. And there are, again, some cheap shots you have to memorize. It wouldn't be an arcade game, arcade-like gun game without cheap shots, but... that's what I love about these 1cc-able games. Okay, the skill-based nature of them. There is a certain arcade developer, and I do like some of their games, but just You know, they don't really have their games 1ccable, and they're kind of rigged with the difficulty. And there's other games that are like that. I'm not a huge fan of it. Carnival, which I ran at the horror RGLtv horror marathon, that's another example of a game that's not super fair. I know it's a fairness in like-gun games. It's, I guess, it's sort of subjective, but just I love, and it really just extends to arcade games in general. Why I'm thankful for these 1cc marathons. Just like I like skill-based arcade games, and I want to see more of them in today's age because I will pay more money to play them. And I like how an arcade game is like a challenge, like a test of strength in your way, but you can master it. And you know, it's obviously meant to make money, but it's also just to have fun. And I feel like these games, they make money and they are fun. Those are the types of games I honestly come back to. There's a few modern games I do play that I enjoy. House of the Dead Scarlet Dawn is my favorite modern shooter in the market. And hopefully Goldstorm Pirates will be a favorite too, we'll see. But yeah, just skill-based games, I definitely am a fan of those. Anyway, oh yeah, Crisis Zone. Forgot we're playing Crisis Zone. So we're closing in on the boss. So this boss is unique because we're fighting two guys at once. So Tiger and Edgy. So the fight will start soon-ish. Edgy, the little guy, he has a lot of night projectiles and kind of like the helicopter grenades or the missiles. You can't really shoot them all down. In many cases. Yeah, I'm kind of, my mouth is going dry from talking so much. So this is a boss. This is indeed a boss. So, a lot of these guys, when you shoot when you kill them enough, shoot them enough, and they lose health and you empty their health bars, they'll have iframes. So some of these bosses do have instances of invulnerability, a bit like the Virtual Cop games I was playing. Shoot the barrel. A lot of dodging going on here. It would have been nice to carry that combo on. That was still pretty good, though. Edgy is definitely the most difficult of the two to actually get a hold of, because he's so evasive. But you can take him out. Just duck, so you can play it a bit safe. The projectiles are pretty random with their trajectories, which could be a bit off-putting. Alright. And then another cheap shot here. That barrel attack, actually, it is possible to actually still get hit by that even if you dodge the attack. Like if you time it when you're frame off, it can hit you. So yeah, you can't really deal with that. You have to duck, pretty much, at some point. Yeah, and there's Edgy, and Tiger defeated. For the final phase with Edgy, it's really good to try to just get some damage on him outright. Immediately. So there's a million in that. Time bonus wasn't as hot, but you got a decent score on the actual combo itself. Again, it's difficult because you have to try to balance the time you get, you know, how fast you get through the stages and the combos at the same time.
An earthquake? Sir,
it's not over yet.
Below the basement level of this complex, there is an experimental nuclear reactor constructed by Garland Electric. Called Geyser 1. Lynch's target must...
So Derek Lynch is also a name of a Namco employee, apparently, but he's the main villain of this game. that cutscene where Claude was talking with his partner, I guess. That cutscene, the setting of the cutscene will change based on the last level you picked. That's the only thing that the level selection actually changes, I believe. Anyway, final boss. This is Derek Lynch.
I have been waiting for you, my STF friends. The atomic reactor is on overdrive. Soon, London would be nothing more than a...
The jarring thing is that his dialogue here is actually ripped from the arcade version, which explains why it sounds lower quality compared to everything else.
You would instantly die here anyway.
That said, I still prefer how the arcade version sounds. It had the Gashin sound system, which was kind of really just incredible. Just a lot of booming explosions is probably the most distinguishing thing I can have. This is Derek Lynch, and Derek, like some of the Virtual Cop fights, he's got backup to deal with. A lot of these armored guys, headshots tend to score more points and kill enemies a bit faster, do more damage. So for the big armored guys, I tend to focus on headshots if possible. And Derek comes from the right. The beeping sound means I was running low on time. But every time you kill everyone in an area, it'll transition to wait, and you have to get to the next level, and then you'll get a time extend. Derek will also throw grenades that are kind of difficult to see. Here's the firing squad here. More of these knife guys. Alright. In the arcade, Derek's behavior is a bit different. Also, I haven't really talked about the differences in the arcade. The arcade version definitely seems to have less enemies compared to the PS2. And Derek's behavior is a bit different, like he'll actually shoot a lot more aggressively. His grenades fly faster. They're not as very sluggish as they are here. Alright, and that's a no-miss 1cc of Crisis Zone. There you go. And the final stage has the worst time bonus. Like you can't really get a lot of time bonus out of the final stage. But we did it. We have saved Garland Plaza from the evil STF, I guess, or the terrorist organization, not STF. STF is the heroes. The URDA, excuse me. I'm losing my train of thought. The Time Crisis games do have lore as well, which is kind of cool. Made it out.
Report. Okay, sir. No problem. Still in one piece. This is Squad 1. Mission accomplished. We're going home.
Yeah! This ending is incredible. Oh well. But yeah, that was a pretty solid. It was a pretty solid run, all things considered. Yeah, you get this incredible ending, just to sort of cap off a pretty awesome game. If you see Crisis Zone in the arcade, definitely play it. It's awesome. Again, I prefer the arcade version over PS2, but you can't go wrong with either one, I guess. You still get a lot of really nice, brisk machine gun action, and I think Namco did an incredible job with it. And they've made it out. And they remastered all the music for the PS2 port, I believe. Time Crisis 2 was the other kind of earlier game that got a PS2 port, which was sort of a remake, updating the graphics. But there we go. Beat the game. Decent score. And here's some of my other scores I've put up. Definitely haven't optimized this game further, but it's Time Crisis games are great because you could just play them over and over and get better times and score. But yeah, that was a fun one. So I guess I'll be signing off here, passing the mic to the opponent. We'll be continuing the block with the Time Crisis 1 through 3. And then after that, Desert Eagle, I believe, is playing one of the Resident Evil Code Veronica games, I believe. And then I guess I'll be later closing out this block with House of the Dead. So I guess I'll see you guys next time, and take care. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.